Welcome back to another episode of With a Grain of Salt. I'm your host, Isaiah Salter,
I'm Tom Andino.
and we appreciate you guys tuning in for yet another episode. Tom,
It's good to be back.
it's great to be back. How you doing?
Good.
Doing well?
I'm doing well.
How was your week?
It was a good week. I just got back from the gym. Went home and showered. So, it was a full body workout first
Yeah.
time on my own.
Mm.
So I followed the little sheet, and it's fun as you realize what you don't know
Yeah.
until you're alone without the trainer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is this seat in the right spot?
Yes, sir.
Did I set this up right? And she told me to do 10 of this weight, but this feels really easy. And then I got to the third set on number 9 of 10, and I couldn't lift it. I'm like, that's what she wanted, right? Like fatigue.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Total failure. Great.
Yes, sir.
But
And
keep going.
the gym is new to you.
It is new to me. Yeah. As of the end of January.
Wow.
Yeah. It's been comical and intimidating because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
But it's been a challenge, and it's been good. I've been
Mhm.
consistent
Mm.
in going, and I think that's the key.
The
Just showing up.
consistency. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
What do you think? What was it? Why you never got into it growing up? It just wasn't a part of kind of your lifestyle.
So I don't love exercise,
Mm.
but I've battled my weight my whole life.
Mm.
People don't believe that. When I was younger, I was wearing Husky jeans.
Yeah. I don't
And
even know what those are, but it sounds big.
yeah, they were big.
Okay.
And my mom would always say you have to watch what you eat.
Mm.
I was like, well, I do watch it. I watch it go right in my mouth, like, and my grandma would make cookies. And so but as I got older, I apparently put on 50 pounds in college.
Wow.
It's so gradual.
Wow.
You didn't even know it, right? So I had a physical after I got home, and getting my first job, you have to get insurance, and they ran blood work, and the doctor said, well, you have fatty liver.
Mm.
I don't know what that was. He said, have you gained a lot of weight in a short period of time? I said, well, no. And we looked at the scale, and he's like, well, over these years, yes. I thought he meant 10 pounds in a week.
Right.
kind of
Right.
thing,
Right.
And so I was determined to take that weight off.
Mm.
And I've known my whole life that I cannot eat the cookies and not exercise,
Mm.
or I can exercise and eat the cookie.
Oh man.
And Tom's always going to eat the cookie.
Right. And that's just what you know.
So, right, I exercise. So the gym, I could feel, especially after the toll that the cancer had taken on me, I have no upper body strength at all. And so I wanted to try and do something about that.
Yeah.
So in January, a lot of people make New Year's resolutions, but the gym that's right near my house was running a sale, $5 off. And I had time to work with a trainer, because I don't know if it's, pick up the biggest weight you can lift and do that once, or a smaller weight and do it 10 times, or it was totally intimidating. It was like walking into a foreign country for me. But Shane has pushed me and helped me grow, and she'll always say, I think you're ready to go to 35 pounds. And I'm like, I admire your optimism. All right. But she's usually right.
Yeah.
And then she said, and it's not a failure if you can't make it, if you fatigue out, that's great. And then we'll drop the weight and you'll finish the set. We call it a drop set. I didn't know what that was. I was so excited as I started to watch weights go up. And we were doing the assisted pull-up machine.
Yep.
And I said, all right. I said, we were at 140. And she's like, I think you're ready for 130. And I was like, why are you going the other way? And she said, and she laughed. She said, no, this one machine, it's the opposite.
Wow.
The less weight there is, the more you're working and using your body weight. It's like golf, she said. So
that's amazing.
so that machine, I have to go down.
Yeah.
The other ones I go up.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, I think that's so interesting, talking to somebody who exercise is like new, something that they, is foreign to them, that they don't like. Because for me, it's been a part of my life for so long.
Yeah.
Being a college athlete or an athlete my whole life, I mean, that's all I know.
Sure.
And I love exercise, and I love going to the gym. I love running. So it's crazy how there's both ends of the spectrum,
Absolutely.
Excuse me. But it goes back to what you were saying about the consistency. And I think that's been something that's been on my mind heavy, is just embracing the journey, not trying to speed the process up. And the gym is a beautiful metaphor and example of why embracing the journey is so important. I mean, if you go to the gym and you expect your whole body to change or to be in shape in a week,
Yeah.
you're going to be let down.
Yep.
You got to really embrace the journey and understand that through the days, each and every day, just getting up, put one foot in front of the other. The days that you don't want to get up, you still get up. That's really where the growth happens. You know, and you're going to look back 2-3 months from now, you would have lost 30 pounds, or you're in shape, or you're able to lift weight you never thought you could lift.
Yep.
And that's where you look back and you say the journey is the reward. The journey is the reward.
When I was in physical therapy, there was a sign over one of the doors that said, "Trust the process."
Mm.
And I think that's so hard. I think that's why SMART goals are important. People talk about, measuring. Don't just say, well, I want to join a gym or I want to get stronger. Give yourself different benchmarks, right? I want to lose 5 pounds by the end of the year. Because if you go in the second week and you've only lost half a pound, you're like, well, forget it. No, you said 5 pounds in 12 months.
Come on.
You lost you're on your way, right? You have to be realistic about that, about progress, because otherwise you're going to hurt yourself when you're trying to help yourself.
So true.
And I don't feel stronger. She asked me, do you feel stronger? I know I have more balance. I know my shoulders are back more and I'm standing up straight. And I know that when we started doing like rows, I was using 15 pounds.
Wow.
And now I'm at 35. So I don't feel stronger, but I see it in the weight that I pick up.
That's good.
Yeah.
I love it. I love that. Especially, with our relationship and everything that you've been through. I care so much about you. So seeing you really put that work in it's admirable.
Yeah.
Seriously,
Thanks.
it is. And I think that's a good segue to let people know how we met, because I know the first 2 episodes, you interviewed me, I interviewed you. We kind of talked about our stories a little bit, but like, how did we get here?
Right.
I'll let you go from your perspective, then I'll go after.
So I met you through another person.
Yep.
His name is Jack. And Jack and I would meet and talk, and you and Jack knew each other from basketball. And Jack would always say, Tom, you gotta talk to Isaiah. And I said, anytime. And he said the same thing to you about me.
Yeah.
But you can't force that, right? So whenever you were ready, and one Sunday in November, you came up to my office and we had a conversation that went on, I think, for 2 hours, maybe 3. And I remember halfway through, I asked you who you are, you're telling me your story, and I think you kind of, something clicked with you that, oh wait, I can't believe I'm telling this guy this stuff. I don't even know him. What was that like for you? I guess that environment to meet a total stranger and just open up. And we really didn't start with like small talk.
I know, it went straight into it.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a testament to who you are, the environment that you create in your office, because I felt comfortable the moment I sat down. You always have a little bit of skepticism whenever you're meeting somebody new for the first time, because you don't know anything about this person. Yeah, Jack told me things about you, and I trusted Jack, so I was like, yeah, I'm sure Tom is a great person, but I got to see it for myself. That's why you got to take things with a grain of salt. And so I went in there and, yeah, who are you? What are you about? Where do you come from? Different questions like that. I just started to open up, and vulnerability is something that I've learned isn't a weakness. It's a superpower. Yep. But the key to vulnerability is understanding who you can open up to that's in front of you, like who you can actually open up to. And, when I sat down, I just felt in a sense of comfort and peace to be able to express who I really was, the things I've been through. And I think that also goes into how amazing of a listener you are. That's something that you've taught me that I've really cherished and honed in on in my life, is the ability to listen to people with an open mind and an open heart, and be present and allow them to express and navigate what they're going through. Because a lot of the times, it's not you telling somebody what they need or what they should do. It's you listening and allowing that person to navigate those issues for themselves. And that's what you allowed me to do in that space. And I was like, yeah, like I love this dude already, and obviously you told me things about you, and when we had that genuine connection, but it was just, it was an immediate sense of like, I found somebody who I can come to that's outside of the bubble of being a student or a student athlete, that I can come express certain things with. And us not really, I love the fact that we weren't around each other every day. It was on Sundays where we saw each other for the first time that week.
Yep.
So knowing that you're not in my world, you're not around me all the time, I also felt really comfortable kind of getting a perspective from you that was kind of from the outside, because I knew you were going to be real. Oh,
Sure.
okay, that's what you're going through. Let's do this or that, whatever it is. And that helped me tremendously. So, yeah, that's kind of, I mean, we just gave the story on how we met, through Jack. Shout out to Jack, an amazing guy.
Yeah.
And also, he had told me you work for Campus Ministry. Obviously, Jack is Catholic. And, everybody is going to have that idea of like, oh, Campus Ministry, Catholic. I'm not, me personally, I'm not Catholic, but, I am spiritual. But at the same time, you never know with that stuff, because there are people that want to put things on you or transform you into a certain belief or ideology. And so you have those, what's preconceived notions like Campus Ministry. I don't know, man. But,
Right.
I'm somebody who embraces being open and trying new things. So I was like, let me see it. And it turned out to be one of the best things ever.
Yeah.
Every Sunday we met, and you got to really see the journey of my life. I got to see the things you were going through. And that's really where our connection just deepened. It's meeting and being able to open up and be honest and vulnerable about what we are really going through, our visions. Since you've met me, I've been a huge dreamer and huge believer in the things that I want to do and what I feel like, God has placed on my heart to do. And being able to go into that space and open up about those things and have somebody that can see it and believe it in you too, I mean, that's one of the best feelings, so to see where we are now, it's just a testament to who you are, the space that you curated in your office, and the way that you allowed me to be myself. So
Yep.
yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. I think for me, when I sit down with somebody, if I have an agenda, it's game over. Right? That's just how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That if it's not my goal nor intent to make anybody anything or believe certain things.
Yep.
Right? But I think creating that environment with anything. So I know who I am, right? If you have a question about how I live my life and you ask it, now you're fertile ground to hear what I have to say.
Yes.
Rather than if you come in and I lead with the campus ministry angle or the music angle, right? No, you're just talking to me. All right. And as time goes on, I may see gifts in you and may tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, I think you'd be really good at this. Would you consider doing this? You, the person.
Wow.
But so often I don't think we always mean to do it, but sometimes I think we sit across from somebody and we start to think, I wonder who this person will be for me. Nope. Be curious about who they are for them first. And if you're lucky enough to be in their orbit and have a relationship with them, great. Start there.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's what love is.
Yep.
You can say the quote.
Willing the good of the other.
Yep.
For the other.
For the other.
And being willing to do something about it. Willing the good of Isaiah for Isaiah, not for me.
Yep.
And being willing to do something about it. But I think where we fall sometimes is that the other person doesn't let us do something about it because we're taught to not inconvenience people. We don't want to bother anybody.
Yep.
Well, I was going to tell Tom this, but I didn't want to bother him. He's got a lot going on. And when I hear that, I get so angry because whoever that person is, they don't get to decide if they're bothering me. I do.
Yeah.
Right? Like, don't make decisions for other people like that because they want to be there.
Yep.
If you'll let them. Because a lot of times we hear the story, well, I was going to call you, or this thing happened, I didn't want to bother, and you're like, I would have come. I would have been there. But they didn't let you because they made a decision for you.
Yep.
Without letting you weigh in.
That's why communication is so important.
Yeah.
Just being honest, because there are relationships where people will tell you like, hey, like, I'm not, like, if you call me, like, and I say I can't answer, like, that's just what it is. Like, I'm cool with that. Like, but I think communicating early on about who you are and then trusting what the other person is telling you is so important. Like if you tell me, yo, I got your back, call me whenever you need. Okay.
Yep.
All right. I trust that you're keeping your word. And then if something happens where maybe you can't answer the call, you're like, not today. We'll figure it out from there. But like you said, I think a lot of people, they stop themselves from opportunities, from growth, from connections because of the perceptions or assumptions that they create in their own head, you know, and a lot of that will be kind of diminished or figured out through communication.
Yes.
You know, like understanding what this relationship is, what we have here is so important to know the decisions that I can make if I do need to call you or I do need to reach out, you know, because I know who Tom is.
Right.
You know, and so, yeah, I think that's incredibly, incredibly important. And I think it makes me wonder why so many people are afraid to have those type of conversations, like those uncomfortable conversations, in a sense of like, you know, what this is or who you are to me, those type of things. Where do you think that comes from? Like, why? How do you think people can get better at having those uncomfortable conversations? Because I think that's really where, you know, the connection comes from. You know, every time I came into your office and we had those conversations that were deep and a little bit uncomfortable, maybe for me to say or you to say whatever it was, that's really where we connected the most. And it doesn't mean we always have to agree or see eye to eye, but just having the space in the relationship where we can be honest, I think is so important.
Yeah. There's a quote that Fred Rogers has. It says, anything human is mentionable. And anything mentionable can be manageable if you talk about it with people that you trust. But I think so often when we're going through something, right, we often think they wouldn't understand. So we keep it inside, and it controls us. And when we have the courage to put it out there, then we can start to get control of it instead of it controlling us. If you will have the courage to talk about it with people that you trust. It's very interesting to me that there are topics in society that people just won't talk about. Miscarriage. Painful. My wife and I went through that. Nobody talks about it. And so once we lost our first child, and Lisa told, you know, I miscarried. Oh, I had 3 miscarriages. Suddenly everybody's had a miscarriage.
Yeah. Wow.
But nobody talks about it. And that one is really curious to me because it's nobody's fault. There should be no shame associated with that. You know, alcoholism, addiction, people just don't talk about these things. And I wonder if you have people in your life that you can talk about those with, what the difference would be. It became very apparent through my work that most of the time people were not afraid to tell me something. They were afraid to hear it for themselves as it fell out of their mouth. And then they kind of would pull back for a second and realize they're still here. I'm still here. The room didn't swallow them up. So what are we going to do with it now? I think fear just prevents people from getting to know each other. You know, you hearing campus ministry led you down a certain road in your mind, right? I'm not going to try to make you Catholic any more than if I go see the librarian, she's going to try to turn me into a book.
Yeah, right.
But it's totally rational,
right,
in our head.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to go to the wellness center. Is there something wrong with me? No. You might just need to talk something out. It's emotional well-being. Take care of that before you have a mental health crisis. And do it with people that you trust. So
real. I mean, going back to what you said about people, you know, when they hear things for the first time or they're afraid to say it to themselves, like that's so true. I think a big reason why people have trouble being honest or real with other people is because they're not honest and real with themselves. You know, you try to mask the pain or you try to neglect it or you try to say it's not there, or the things you're struggling with behind closed doors, you try to just act like everything's okay. Like, it's okay to not be okay.
Yes.
You know, it's okay to be struggling with certain things, you know, but if you never have the courage to be honest with yourself about it, it's going to be incredibly difficult to find people that you can be honest with also.
Right.
You know, there's that saying that you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. So if you're radiating that energy of being closed off or not being real or not being authentic, those are the type of people that you're just going to naturally fall into the trap of being around. Yeah. But when you really take the stance of, I'm going to be honest with myself. Yes, I'm struggling with this. Yes, this certain area is hard. Yes, I'm having difficulty opening up or being honest about this certain area of my life. And you really just start to take steps down that path of being open. That's where you'll find people who are willing and open to doing the same thing with you. Mm-hmm. I think, that's the power of being vulnerable. It's not something that to look down upon. It's not something that's going to push you into being alone. It's actually going to show you where you can have the most genuine and honest connections in your life. Right. Like when I started really being open and honest and vulnerable in the right way, because there's a big difference between opening up about everything to everyone and being vulnerable. When I started really being vulnerable in the right way, I just started seeing all these people that were around me where I had this preconceived notion that they were this or they were fine or this, start opening up to me about certain things. And I'm like you said, the miscarriage thing, like, oh yeah, I had this. I'm like, what? Mm-hmm. You're going through this? Hold up. Maybe it's not all what it seems. Like maybe there's a lot of deeper things here that vulnerability can help us tap into. Mm-hmm.
Someone sharing their story can often give somebody else the courage to share their story. It might look different. They may not be going through the same thing you are, but they find courage in that sometimes. Father Mike Schmitz he does videos every week, and he did a video once about relationships, and he said relationships require two things to be really successful: availability and vulnerability. And that really made a lot of sense, because you can spend a lot of time with somebody, but it never goes deeper. So they may be a buddy, a pal, go get a drink after work, right? We have friendships of utility. We work together. You're on the same team. We're in the same class. Can you give me the notes for the homework? But virtuous friendship, right? That we're on this journey together, not to change each other, but to make each other better. And not because you're not enough already, but because we see the potential in one another. That's really important. And then vulnerability, but that has to be earned, because so many people have opened up to people, and those people have left. Yeah. Or said, you can tell me anything, and then they share something, they say, oh, anything but that. Yeah. Right? And so people are guarded because they have been wounded. Mm-hmm. But if you have vulnerability with somebody, but they're never available to you after that, that friendship isn't going to go very far either. But when you have both availability and vulnerability, that can be amazing. And Father Mike talks about the difference between transparency and vulnerability. A lot of leaders today say, we're transparent, we're leading with transparency. Transparency is looking in a fish tank. You can see the fish. Mm-hmm. It's very transparent. Vulnerability is, I'm going to let you reach your hand into my fish tank and pick up that castle and see what's underneath it. The gunk, the dirt of the ecosystem, right? I'm gonna share my story, and I'm gonna give you permission to ask questions about it. All right. Who are the people in your life that you, if you were a book, that you would hand a pen to and say, I give you permission to edit?
Wow.
Trust those people.
That's good.
Yeah.
That is good. It made me think of that. I love the availability and vulnerability. I think that is huge. I think there's a reason why a lot of relationships don't work, like you said. A lot of times people think being around someone a lot means there's a relationship there. Mm-hmm. You can be around someone hours and hours a day and not know that person, truly. But like you said on the other end, like, you can also have situations where maybe you open up to a person one time, but you guys just are never around each other. You never spend time with each other. There's no relationship there. Right. Yeah, maybe you had one nice moment, but that's not a relationship. That is a moment in time that you exchange with somebody. I always say, you got to think of yourself like having a relationship with yourself. Think of yourself as your best friend, right? If you never spend time with your best friend, if you never have real genuine talks with your best friend, if you never go out and experience different things with your best friend, there will be no relationship there.
Correct.
And that's literally how we have to view the relationship we have with ourselves. If you don't spend time with yourself, if you don't ask yourselves questions, if you don't really open up and be honest with yourself, there isn't going to be a relationship there. And a lot of people get into very surface level or non-existent relationships because they don't have a real relationship with themselves.
Right.
There's no foundation that they're coming into these relationships with. You know, they're coming in with a very hollow inner environment, you know, and that's what's going to show in your outer environment, you know, and through your friendships and relationships. And I think that's incredibly important. You know, you want to be around people where, and I'm not saying every time you're around somebody, you guys got to end up crying or be emotional. That's not what I'm saying, but like a real genuine connection.
Right.
You know, like where you, when you're around this person, you feel like you can really be authentically all of who you were made to be. Or you feel like you can continue to take steps down figuring out who that is.
Right.
Without feeling like, oh, I got to hide certain parts or, you know, they're going to look at me a certain way. Nah, you know?
Yeah. And vulnerability has to be earned. I'm not saying,
Yeah,
you know,
like
you
you said
feel like
earlier.
you have a connection with somebody, right? I tell them everything about you
Yeah.
and then some, right? Over time, right? To earn that.
Mm.
Or you can, you know, if you're afraid sometimes to come out and say like, well, I deal with this or I struggle with that, you
Yeah.
can ask a question.
Yes.
Isaiah, have you ever felt like you're not enough? You're asking maybe because you feel some days like you're not enough. But you don't want to say, you know, Isaiah, I feel like I'm not enough. What do you think about that? Pose a question to somebody that you trust.
Yes.
See where they take that. You haven't admitted it's you.
Yep.
You're just curious. Be curious. Ted Lasso says that. Be curious.
I love that show.
Right?
That
Be
was
curious.
That was one of my favorite shows. By the
Yeah.
way. Shout out to Coach Champ for showing me that.
Yeah.
Great show.
And once you're, you know, my wife always says, move from awareness to action. Or we talked about weight. So one year we were in Disney World,
That's good.
where we eat really good food all the time.
Yeah.
And one night I was getting ready to go to dinner, and I said, "Oh man, I think the humidity down here has shrunk my
Yeah.
pants." And I was serious, you know. And my wife's like, "Really? It wasn't the breakfast buffet we ate this morning?"
Mhm.
Because I didn't want to say, "Oh man, I think I gained a couple pounds," but
Yeah.
I knew in my head, I got it right. I'm aware now.
Yeah.
I got to move to action,
That's so good.
and that can be hard
Yeah.
to make that step. You know, I know I do this thing, and we stay stuck.
Mm.
Right, okay, what are you going to do to fix it? Maybe there's somebody in your life you could ask to hold you accountable to
Yep.
that. Because we'll let ourselves down so many times. But if we have to face somebody else, and they say, you know, did you go to the gym today?
Mm-hmm.
You might go because you don't want to face them and say, no, I didn't.
Mm.
Which it shouldn't be. We should be more upset at letting ourselves down, I think, than other
Absolutely.
people. But it's usually the other way around.
Yep.
Which is why accountability partners, friends, spouses can be really critical in self-growth.
That's good.
Yeah.
So true. Yeah, in order to change anything, you got to first be aware that that's a thing in your life.
Yep.
But I think I saw this, I think it was Joe Rogan's podcast or something, they were talking about mental health, and one of the biggest causes for depression and anxiety is people just sitting in their thoughts, sitting, not doing anything, thinking about it all day, every day, just letting it compound.
Right.
When in reality, okay, yes, you're aware. This is how you're feeling. Get up and do something. Move.
Yep.
Go for a walk. You know, go to the grocery store. Go run an errand. Go to the gym. Whatever you have to do, but just sitting there and sulking in it, it's just creating more and more. Like your mind is just racing at 1,000,000 miles per hour. You're not able to navigate this thing. You have all this mental, you know, confusion, and it just feels incredibly overwhelming, and it becomes heavier and heavier, which makes it harder to move and take action.
Yes.
You know, so, and I'm not saying, you know, there's a fine line between talking and being honest about what you're going through and just continuously talking about it and thinking about it all the time and not doing anything.
Right. And here comes the comma trick again, right? Because a lot of times when we're in that place, and I've been in it, we might say, I can't do this. And when we say something like that, we have now shrunk our world. It's inward.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do this. And if we put a comma at the end of that and put the word alone there, I can't do this alone.
Come on.
Immediately, we are sent outward to think of other people who can help us.
Yeah.
I can't do this alone. Who can help me? Who's into personal training? Right? Who do I know that can do electrical work
Mm.
or plumbing, or who has experienced miscarriage that I could go and talk to because I'm stuck. But when we say I can't do this, sometimes over time it feels really good because you wouldn't understand.
Yep.
And it gives us a sense of uniqueness to stay stuck there. But if you say, I can't do this alone, it can start to change your perspective.
And that's why I think faith is so important. It's huge. And that's why we say, you know, whatever you believe in, whether it's you're a Christian, Muslim, Hindu, spiritual, whatever it is, having just a sense of faith that there's a creator, there's a higher power guiding you, helping you through it, it helps tremendously, especially in those moments. That was one of the only things that got me through some of the darkest moments in my life, understanding that I had the whole universe on my side. Right? And yes, it's incredibly difficult. Yes, things were, you know, very confusing and I was lost, but that's a part of it. That's a part of you finding yourself. That's a part of you figuring these things out. But understanding that, and that's why it's just so important to have the faith, because if you don't have the faith, then you are going to feel like you have to do everything alone, right? You're going to feel like you have to do everything alone. Having the faith gives you the sense of, you know, I might not know now, but I know that, you know, God is on my side working in the back end in ways that I just can't understand.
Right.
And I was saying this the other day, a lot of times our job is not to understand it, it's just to embrace it. There's a big difference. I think a lot of people, you know, where people kind of fall into a trap is always trying to understand, why is this happening? Oh, why I got to go through this? This is the worst thing ever. How could this happen to me? Let go of all those thoughts, because now you're just separating. You're just creating the separation between you and God trying to show you something in this season.
Correct.
Just embrace it. Okay, this is what I'm going through. This is the awareness. This is what I'm going through. This is what's happening in my life. This is just the reality of the situation. I'm just going to embrace it, take action, take the next step. That's it.
Yep.
And trust. I'm going to surrender to the process and trust. Yep. Right? And I think that's so important, man. Like, it really is. That's why I'm not. Yeah, I'm gonna let you rock. But I just, faith, I just think is a huge piece of finding yourself. You know, knowing that we're a collective conscious. We're a collective group of people. Each and every one of us has a spirit, has a soul. Through that, we're all connected. You're not alone. You're just experiencing that spirit that lives within each of all of us. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. You're experiencing that in your own unique way. Right. But you're not alone. Right. You're not. And, you know, having that faith to lean on allows you to understand you're not alone. And things will be okay. You know, things will be okay.
And having the courage to ask for what you need. I asked a lot of people that over several years, as they would tell me a problem or something. I said, okay, what do you need? And they didn't know, which is really interesting, because we walk around with ourselves all day long. When I was diagnosed, people asked me, what do you need? So many people wanted to help. And in that moment, I didn't know what I needed, but I knew what I didn't need. And that can be as equally as powerful. I said, I don't need you to treat me differently. I don't need your pity. I don't ever want to hear, well, I was going to come and talk to you about this, but you got a lot going on, so I didn't. I'm still the same guy. Right? You wouldn't treat me any differently if I suddenly told you I was diabetic.
Right.
Right. So in that moment, I knew what I didn't need, because I didn't know what I needed. You know, the whole world was turned upside down. But I hope that you have at least one person that you might be able to tell, if you're real with yourself, here's what I need in this moment. Can you help me?
Yep.
And find inspiration for whatever you're going through. This has been really helpful to me, as we talked about the gym, because I don't love going, although I feel better after. Be inspired by the people in your life who are just living their life, if you can't be inspired by you. Right? I'm going to go to the gym today, and I'm going to do this exercise and think of my 90-year-old grandma who can barely walk anymore, because I'm grateful I can still move. And even though it's painful, and I may not like it, I don't want to sweat. I'm going to do this for her. Over time, you'll have days where you will do it for you. 3 years ago this week, it's a true story. 3 years ago this week, I was in a hospital bed and could not move. Today I could. So let that push you forward. Because much as we long to go back, we can't.
Mm-hmm.
It is impossible. But we can go forward.
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's so good, man. I think, that's another, you just sparked another thought of just always making things about you. That's something that a lot of people don't realize. Their ego is driving the car, and they don't realize it. And a lot of people think ego means, your ego is in control means, oh, I'm the best, nobody better than me, I'm great. The opposite end of the spectrum is also your ego. I'm not enough, I'm not worth it, I can't do this, I'm all alone. That is your ego too. Right? And so you have to really be able to take a step back and have that conversation with your ego and be like, yo, you gotta move out the way. Because you're stopping me from really taking the steps and moving in the direction that I want to move. And when you move away from your ego and you step into your spirit, that's when you start understanding that this thing that we call life is so much bigger than just you, right? But at the same time, you play such a pivotal role in this thing we call life.
Right.
You are a part of the grand scheme of all this thing working exactly how it's meant to work. And, making it not about you and understanding that you're a part of a collective family. You got, God on your side. You have people in your life that do love you, whether you realize it or not. That's what can be your driving force every single day.
Yep.
And what you did earlier about, thinking about 3 years ago, you were in a hospital bed and now you can walk, now you can move. That right there is why I think reflecting and allowing the reflection to turn into gratitude is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Everything good? No, you're good. Yeah, that's Doug. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Being able to reflect on the things that you've been through, the stages in your life that you've been through, and being grateful for where you are now, knowing you made it out of that, that's something that keeps me going every single day. Every day I wake up, I'm like, man, I could breathe. I have the freedom to get up and move at my own leisure. When I was in that hospital, you're stuck in the confines of those four walls.
Correct.
You can't go anywhere.
Right.
And so being grateful for that, being grateful that I have a car. When I'm driving by all these homeless people that don't have food or water or a car to get anywhere, or I'm driving by a mom pushing her two kids in a stroller and they don't have a car, she's going to work or whatever it is. Like, being grateful for the little things. We get so caught up in our own lives. We get so caught up looking at everybody else on social media and all these things, thinking we need this or we need to be there or we're not enough until we get this thing.
Right.
Take a step back and realize how blessed you truly are with the things that you have right now.
If you think about the solar system, a lot of us think that we're the sun. We are the center of the universe.
Yeah.
Right? And other people's lives revolve around us. And it's not true.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We're part of the cosmos. And we forget that. And I want to go back to what you said about ego and I'm not enough, because that is such a pervasive feeling that I've heard from so many young people. I don't know. I just feel like I'm not enough. And when I ask people, not enough for who, or not enough for what, they often can't answer that. But if they can wrestle with that and realize that it's just the inner critic turning into a bully, then maybe they can do something with it.
Yeah.
But be careful of those feelings that feel so real but are not totally rational.
Yeah.
But when we're feeling it is a real feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So engage it.
Yes.
All right, I feel like I'm not enough. Okay,
Yep.
Not enough for who?
Mm-hmm.
And if Isaiah, Has Isaiah ever told you that?
Mm.
Or is that you feeling unworthy
Yep.
or inferior?
Good.
I think I hear that so often.
Mm-hmm.
In a men's group I'm in, one night we had a meeting, and 4 out of the 7 people, that was what they shared. We had to share what was burdening us that night.
Mm.
And 4 of them said, I just feel like I'm not enough. But it was grounded in what they felt, but it wasn't substantiated by anything that had happened. But they were feeling it. And I hear that a lot from people these days.
Where do you think it comes from?
I think some of it is from the phones. I think social media phones, I think they're great.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're a problem. But I think what they have prevented us from doing is the problem. From having conversation, from hearing feedback from people that will actually verbalize. Because when we're scrolling and we're giving ourselves our own feedback, man, I wish I could make that recipe. Man, I wish I looked like that at the gym. Man, I wish I had a podcast. Man, I wish I could play basketball like that. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We learn about ourselves from other people. I don't know that I have mustard on my back if nobody tells me.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was a good listener because I don't listen to me.
Right.
Other people told me.
Yep.
Tom, you're a really good listener. And after you hear that 500 times, you start to think maybe I should do something with that skill. Because for a while we're like, oh, yeah, I'm just sitting here, not doing anything. Anybody can listen. But over time, people told me, no, because you listen to not to respond, but to try and understand. That was a really interesting insight, because I think sometimes when we're just being ourselves, when we're just doing us, we don't have the language always. When somebody says, tell me why you do what you do, and you're like, what do I do?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Literally. That's so good. That's so good. Oh, that's so good. Yeah. Yep.
Have you felt like that?
Like what?
Like you're not enough? Different times in your life?
Yes, I definitely have. I realized mine stemmed from growing up. I was always a people pleaser because I always loved people. So I always cared about the perceptions that people had of me. And that led me to falling into the trap of thinking that I had to be a certain way or have something or look a certain way to please others. So my value was in the things that I did or the things that I was able to attain or the way I was able to make this person like look at me a certain way or what I was wearing. And when you put your value in things that are external in the world, it's constantly fleeting. It constantly goes this way, that way, and your value is going to be taken so many different places, and you're never going to feel enough. It's a constant rat race you fall into. I heard somebody say that really impacted me. You're already enough. You've always been enough. You were never not enough. I think also a thing that makes people feel that way is the story that they keep telling themselves or the story that they've been told from either their parents or people that were in their lives really young. You know, our childhood does shape, a big part of who we are and how we see ourselves. So if you have people in your life, parents, mentors, people that really had a influence on you really young, and their love was conditional, your value is going to be based in the things that you can do or the things that you can achieve or what you attain. That's just how it is. Oh, when I get A's and B's, my parents love me. Then I'm enough. If I fail a class or I don't do this thing, I'm not enough, because that's what you've been told. And that can be really difficult for a lot of people to navigate. And, I didn't experience that personally myself with my parents. It was more of just from the people-pleasing thing and falling into that trap of social media, too. I mean, you always constantly looking at what everybody else is doing with their life, thinking that, oh, man, I need to have that. I need to be doing that. I need to have that many followers. I need to look like that. I need to have my pictures like that. And if you don't get those things, you don't feel like you're enough.
Right.
And it's a constant a constant battle that just keeps people in a loop over and over and over. And you have to really like do your best to break free from that. Excuse me. Do your best to break free from that, because if you don't, it can really take you down a path that is hard to come out of. You know, feeling like your value is rooted in the external world.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that you need is already within you. You are already enough.
Yep.
It doesn't mean don't set goals, don't, want to be the best version of yourself, don't put yourself out there. That's not what it means. It means you're already enough.
Right.
Those things aren't going to make you more of who you are. They're just going to add to your purpose in life. The people that you can touch, the ways you can serve, the ways you can express yourself. But feeling like I'm not enough until I get this. I'm not enough until I get that person.
Right.
It's a dangerous road to go down for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we often look at what we aren't more than who we are or what we are.
That's good.
I mean, I'm sure at some parts of my life put a lot of pressure on myself because I was not athletic.
Mm.
And I thought my dad would be really disappointed in me. But he never said that. But I've thought a lot about that over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe I was a disappointment because I was the firstborn son who couldn't throw a baseball or hit a t-ball or play Nerf basketball, right? But I will never be that. And I think in when we grow up, some of that stuff we can realize is fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
There was a show on when I was a kid called Voltron. A lot of people don't know about Voltron.
I
They
know
know about the
about it.
Transformers, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But in the worst way, I wanted to be Keith. I wanted to have long hair. I wanted to pilot that black lion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm never going to have long hair, right? The back of my hair, it's gone.
Yeah.
Never going to happen. As hard as I will it to grow,
Mm-hmm.
it will never happen. And I can't drive the black lion because it's not real.
Mm.
But as a kid, it was real to me, But what I love about Voltron versus the Transformers that transform from, human to robot to whatever, car or plane, the lions of Voltron could not form Voltron without each other.
Mm.
The blue line, the yellow, red, green, and black. And so the enemy over time started to learn that if I can keep these separated, they can't form Voltron. But when they came together, when you build your team, all right, when I know, okay, I'm not athletic, but I know people who are, or
Mm-hmm.
I can't build a deck, but I know somebody who can, or I can't lift this thing on my own, if you try to drag a couch a mile down the city without help, the couch is probably not going to make it, and you're going to be in rough shape.
Yeah.
You say, Tom, will you grab the other end of that? You help me move that?
Mm.
We have 4 people moving that couch. It's going to be a piece of cake. Right? So build your team and rely on your team. Because if they're on your team, they want to be there. They want to help you.
Yeah.
We have to get out of our own way
Mm-hmm.
and use all the tools in our toolbox, which, as we get older, are the human beings that we interact with every day.
Mm. So good. That analogy, I mean, the tie into the Voltron, that is such an amazing point. The enemy knows that if he can keep it separated, if he can keep those 4 or 5, colors separated, then it has control. But the moment they come together, it's a wrap.
Yep.
That's literally how I view humanity. That's literally how I view us as human beings. Like this illusion of separation, this illusion of division, it just keeps us divided. Like, oh, that person believes that, or they look like that, or they come from there. We're nothing alike. But at the root of what we are spiritual beings that are rooted in unconditional love. That is the thing that binds us all, is love.
Yep.
Now, it's on the individual to tap into that and live that out in their life, and that dictates whether you're closer to it or away from it. But we're all connected. And this illusion of separation, this illusion that, we're really all individuals and none of us are connected in any way, shape, or form, is what keeps people so divided. That's why people can do crazy things to another group of people and feel like it's righteous. You know what I mean? It's wild, like where we are in society today with the division, the wars, the things that's happening to people. It's like we got to get back to the root of who we are as beings. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Love is at the root of everything.
Mm.
Love or lack of it.
Love or lack of love.
Yep.
I feel like that's definitely something that we can leave the viewers to think about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, are you operating in love or the lack of?
Yep.
You know, really ask yourself that question, you know, and be honest.
Yep.
You know, nobody's perfect, you know, but we can take steps each and every day to moving more and more in alignment with the true source.
Right.
You know, so yeah, we won't do the Q&A question this time because obviously we had somebody come in. If I'm gonna try to cut that out, but no, I think this conversation was amazing. Definitely let us know certain parts that resonated with you. Like, comment, subscribe, and yeah, we're gonna see you on the next episode. But most importantly, take everything you hear and see with a grain of salt. See you guys later.